morning, dear students. Today we are going to begin with the poem The Gift of India by Sarojini Naidu. Now, we'll be doing this particular poem along this plan. First, we'll be discussing about the poet, then, we'll have a short introduction to the poem, then we will go to the historical background of the poem. In order to understand the poem better, it is important for us to know the historical background on which the poem is written. Then we'll have the stanza wise explanation, and finally we'll be discussing the theme of the poem. Now, first let us discuss about the poet Sarojini Naidu, who is also known as the Nightingale of India. Sarojini Naidu, who is popularly known as the Nightingale of India, was born on 13th February 1879. She was an Indian political activist and poet. She was a prolific poet whose volumes of poetry include The Golden Threshold, which was written in 1905, The Bird of Time, 1912, The Spectred Flute, 1928, and The Feather of the Dawn, 1961. She was in fact the first female Indian governor of Uttar Pradesh in independent India. Sarojini Naidu passed away on 2nd March 1949 after securing an unforgettable name in the history of India. Now, you might have come across many of the poems of Sarojini Naidu. And one of the most essential key features in the poems of Sarojini Naidu is the Indianness that her poems reflect. She presents the rural life of India, the folk life of India, and her poems, no doubt, reflect her patriotism. They reflect her feelings for Mother India. And this particular poem, The Gift of India, is not an exception. Now let us discuss what the poem is about. Now, The Gift of India is a poignant and patriotic poem by Sarojini Naidu which praises the sacrifices made by the Indian soldiers in World War I. The poem deals with the theme of courage and selfless sacrifice, and we can look at the poem as an ode to the unsung heroes, the children of Mother India who laid their lives for others. The poem The Gift of India by Sarojini Naidu sounds like an appeal made by Mother India to the world to remember the contribution of Indian soldiers during World War I. Therefore, the poem is surcharged with emotional outpouring of a mother, reminiscence on how her children fought and died during World War I. In the first stanza of the poem, the poet regards all the benefits of raiment, grain, and gold that is unearthed and taken away across the world as gifts from India. The second stanza of the poem pictures the pathetic situation of those soldiers, Indian soldiers, who lost their lives miles away from home. The third stanza briefly presents the picture of grief that is brought to India by the death of its young soldiers. Finally, in the fourth stanza, the poet or the speaker appeals to the world to honor the sacrifices of the Indian soldiers. Now, when you look at this particular poem, you will find that the poem, The Gift of India, is a very simple and elegant poem written in 24 lines. And these 24 lines can be divided into 4 stanzas of 6 lines each. Now, each stanza of the poem is complete in itself, despite its connectedness with the central theme. The first 2 lines of each stanza introduce an idea, and the next 2 lines build upon that idea. The final 2 lines of the stanza serve as a conclusion to the stanza. So in every stanza, this pattern is followed. The first 2 lines introduce an idea, the next 2 lines build upon that idea, and the last 2 lines of the stanza present a conclusion to the stanza. The poem follows a simple rhyming scheme of AA, BB, CC, and this rhyming scheme is followed throughout the poem. Now, before we go on to begin with the poem, let us first try to understand the historical background to the poem. Now, historical background for any piece plays an inevitable part in understanding a literary work. In order to understand the poem, The Gift of India, better, one must know of the political and historical context in which it was written. Sarojini Naidu wrote this poem in the year 1915 during the time of World War I. At that time, India was one of the colonies of the British Empire. Thus, during the World War I, over 10 lakh Indian soldiers fought along with the British Army in different locations of significance. Further, during the colonial expansion, India was exploited for its riches and resources. We know, we have very well read in history that how the colonial empire exploited India for its riches and resources. The same is addressed by the poet in the very first line of the poem, where she says, "Is there aught you need that my hands withhold?" Is it not enough that she has given everything? She does not hold back anything to herself. The poet has used, in fact, these 2 situations as a background in this poem to express her feeling of patriotism. What are the 2 situations? First one, the Indian soldiers, 10 lakh Indian soldiers fought in the First World War. And the second one is the colonial empire exploited India of its riches and resources. So based on these two facts, the poem is written, and through this poem the poetess expresses her love for her country, her feeling for patriotism. Let us now try to understand the poem in detail, and today in this video we are going to do only stanza 1. Is there aught you need that my hands withhold? Rich gifts of raiment or grain or gold. Lo, I have flung to the east and west priceless treasures torn from my breast, and yielded the sons of my stricken womb to the drum beats of duty, the sabres of doom. Now, before going to the explanation of this stanza, let us try to understand the key words in this stanza. Is there aught you need that my hands withhold? Aught means anything. Here, Mother India is directly addressing these words to the colonial empire, to the English, and asking them that is there anything that she is holding back to herself. In other words, she is asking them if there are any more sacrifices left for her to make. She has held nothing back to herself. She has given everything to the world, and she has given it as a gift. She has made numerous sacrifices for the sake of others, and she does not think that she has held anything back to herself. And in the second line, she says that she has given the world rich gifts of raiment, grain or gold. Raiment means clothes and garments. Grain refers to the food grains. Gold refers to precious stones, jewels. So here grain, raiment, gold, all these things refers to India's richness in material resources. So she has given all her precious things to the world. She has given her gold, she has given her garments, she has given her food grains, everything to the world. Lo, I have flung to the east and west priceless treasures from my breast. Priceless treasures. Okay, lo, I have flung. What is lo? Lo is an expression used to call attention to something. So she is calling for attention. East and west. East refers to the eastern countries such as Persia, and the west refers to the countries such as France and Flanders, which is now known as Belgium. She has flung, she has thrown away to the east and the west. What she has thrown away? Her priceless treasures. What are priceless treasures? It refers to the Indian soldiers who sacrificed their lives during the First World War. She has yielded the sons of my stricken womb. She has yielded means she has even provided, she has even produced the sons of a stricken womb. Sons of a stricken womb means, here it means sons of Mother India's sorrowful womb. Now Mother India's womb, okay, from the place where she keeps the child before its birth, that womb of Mother India is referred to as sorrowful because it has borne those sons who have been torn away from her bosom ruthlessly just to serve the British cause in the First World War. And she has produced her sons to the drum beats of the duty. The sons have been ruthlessly torn apart from her bosom, and they have been sent to fight in the First World War on behalf of the Britishers. So drum beats of duty refers to the call to the Indian soldiers who were duty bound to serve the British in their wars that was fought in foreign countries. The sabers of doom. So they have also gone to the call of the sabers of doom. Sabers means long heavy swords with curved blades. Now the expression sabers of doom has been used metaphorically here, and it signifies how war led to the ruin and death of the Indian soldiers fighting for the British. Now these are the key words. Now let us understand stanza 1, the explanation. So when you see the poem, is there aught you need that my hands withhold? Rich gifts of raiment or grain or gold. The poem opens in first person point of view, and the speaker is Mother India. So the Mother India, who is the speaker in the poem, she raises a rhetorical question concerning the sacrifice of her brave sons. It is a rhetorical question because the answer is implied in that question itself. And this rhetorical question concerns the sacrifice of her brave sons. She says, is there something that the colonial power wants from Mother India? Is there anything that they want more? Is there anything that she has ever held back? She has already given them rich gifts of clothing, food, and gold. She has also sent her most priceless treasures, that is, the sons of her womb, who have gone all around the world to march to the beating of drums and perish, die at the hands of enemies. Here in the first stanza, Mother India, we see that Mother India makes a mighty claim in the very first stanza of the poem. And while it may appear that the claim is heavily tinted by strong emotions and sentiments, but we must not forget that it is a claim based on facts, based on truth. We know when you turn around over the pages of history, you will come to know that the role of India or any other colonies for this matter in World War I has been largely ignored. But the fact is that over 1 million Indian soldiers actively fought for British interest along with the Allied forces. So the India, which was a colony of the Britishers during that time, played a very active part in the World War I, but their role was largely ignored. Okay. But the fact is, over 1 million Indian soldiers, they fought for the Britishers along with the Allied forces. The rich gifts of raiment or grain or gold, they are also not a mere poetic invention. It is true that British India supplied all of these resources to the colonizers. The colonizers had exploited India of all its resources. So India has also given this raiment, grain and gold to the colonizers. And the fact that India helped the British despite being under their colonial rule, is a much underappreciated fact. A literary technique is used here to emphasize the extent of help provided to the British. Rich gifts of raiment or grain or gold. Now, here if you see, or grain or gold, there is a repetition of conjunctions. So, successive repetition of conjunction in a line is known as polysydenton. Okay. And moreover, in this particular stanza, we find that Mother India has been personified. The personification of India as mother is made explicit when she says that her sons, priceless treasures, have been torn from her breast, and that she has yielded her children from her grief-stricken womb to the horrors of the battlefield. Her claim of having flung her priceless treasures to the east and west, the fact that Indian soldiers were posted in various battle fronts, ranging from East Africa to the Western Front, the image of a mother who gives away the sons of her womb to the service of the Allied forces, speak as much of her own valor and sense of duty as that of her brave sons. The call of duty, signified by the phrase drum beats of duty, and swords of death and ruin, signified by the expression sabers of doom. These expressions, no doubt, evoke the atmosphere of war. This image is extended in the second stanza, which brings to full view the horrors of war. Interestingly, the drum beats of the last line of the first stanza lead us to the site of war in the second stanza, and this is similar to the manner in which the war cry and the drum beats herald the actual war. So, this expression, sabers of doom, they catch our attention because they represent the nature of the war and the devastation it leaves in its wake. So the poet in this particular stanza, she pays homage to the Indian soldiers, and she says that under the British rule, India was exploited for its riches and resources. The poet acknowledges this particular fact in this stanza. The very first line of this stanza shows India's sentiment of anger, and the question, is it not enough that she has given everything and still they want more from her? So she is questioning that what more can the nations of the world expect her to give them? She has given everything. She has given her resources. She has even flung her priceless treasures, that is her brave sons. So this is what the first stanza is about. We'll be continuing this in the next class. Thank you.